All right, I want you to fasten your seatbelts, because if you're on any of this stuff that we make, you're going to need a seatbelt, you're going to need a G suit, or maybe you'll even need a space suit, because we make some exciting stuff. I've worked on most of all these programs, even the space station when it was Rockwell, all the rockets. We spent Hal and I spent 20 years at Rocketdyne making rocket engines. And so I'm going to tell you some good things about Boeing, what we're doing, and at the same time, I'm going to try to tie all that we've heard today. I've heard some exciting things that's going to tie into. I got a slide here. The last slide I'm going to show is going to be very exciting. The clicker? Green. I'm going to begin with some motherhood statements here. Boeing, our philosophy, our vision in 2016 began probably 13, 14 years ago. We made a conscious decision to do something that was innovative. We said we're going to stop being just an internal silo integrated supplier. We had machine shops at every site. We said we're going to become a systems integrator. When we made that decision, it started us on a path that we can't change now. And it's a path that I think is going to work. It is working. It's difficult, the good, bad, and the ugly, no doubt. We want to run a healthy business, of course. We want to make profit. We want to sell airplanes. We want to sell F-15s, F-18s, Chinooks, V-22s. This is some of our product that we want to sell. But to do this, we have some really deep foundational commitments to the supply base and to our customers, which is the Air Force and the airline companies. We said we want to become a large system integrator. Now you say, well, what does that mean? That means we want to shut down our machine shops. We're going to go out to a supply base. We're going to buy parts. We're going to bring them into our factory. The 787 model is we buy all the parts completely stuffed, assembled into our factory in Everett, and in 3 days we snap together an airplane that comes out the end of the line. Our plan is 10 airplanes a month. That's a 3-day move time. And you're talking about millions of parts all coming together to make a finished airplane. That's our system, that's our model, and we're going to do this because we're going to be lean, we're going to be innovative, and we're going to rely upon a supply base like we've never been before. Our values are not just because we say stuff, it's because they're deeply ingrained in our culture. Because of the problems we had in the past when we didn't have such good values, and we had to win the tanker 3 times. So these are very important to us: leadership, integrity, and customer satisfaction, and being ethical in everything we do. We found out if you take the high road, you'll get the orders. So that 767 tanker program, when we finally won this the 3rd time, it was very important to us. It's only $35 or $36 billion, but over the length of the program, that number is going to probably triple. If you look at the KC-135s that have been around for 50 years. So that's what the first 4 or 5 years of this program, we're not making any money at all. But we know in the future we'll make a lot of money on that program. So we want to be a good customer to our customers and to our supply base. Because as we get more integrated and more as an integrator, we have to go more and more on the outside. We have to rely upon you like we've never done before. On the 787 program, we found that out the most difficult way when the supply chain really brought us to our knees on the 787 program. We said, okay, we got some risk-sharing customers. We give them the parts that said they're going to ship them to us. We're going to snap this thing together. Well, it didn't actually happen that way. And so we learned we still have to manage the supply chain, even though we have some great suppliers and great partners at that point. Here's some of the things that we want to do. This is like a very simple process, how we identify our customers. Then we want to go out and improve our customers. We want to do value stream mapping, just like you've been talking about. We want to do lean assessments at our suppliers. Because we know if we make you better, our product's going to be better. You're going to give it to us 100% on time and 100% quality. As we get more on the outside, we're so dependent upon you. When we have parts coming in to a point of use that you made for us, they have to be good. They have to be on time, because our mechanics are literally taking parts out of a box on an assembly line and putting them on airplanes. That's very, very dependent upon a good supply chain. So we want to improve you with AIWs and lean events, and I do a lot of these. We want you to move towards a single piece pull system. We want you to improve your processes, because if you do that, you're going to give that product to us cheaper. And we're being pressured by our customer as never before on price. We used to have a best value template that we used, and we could weight that on technology and price. Now we can't do that. We're basing everything on price. And it's difficult for us to do that, because sometimes we know that's not the best thing to do, but our customers, the Air Force, and the airlines, is pressuring us to go on price. So what we have to do is make sure that we do enough process improvement in the supply base that when you do give us a product, it's a good product. Even though you might be the cheapest, the low bidder, but we're going to try to improve you so you could be the low bidder and still give us the best product. So this is our process here, how to make you better as a supplier. And we're doing more and more what we call supply-based optimization. As we go out to the supply chain, what we're trying to do is a new organization, what we call commodity-based contracting. We're trying to get 90% of our parts on long-term agreements. And that's a 3-year agreement, usually with a 2-year follow-on. If we can get our contracts, our part numbers on contract, it's less transitional cost for us. We have to pay back to the programs and procurement. A certain percentage has to be added on to every part, because you have people like me going out and helping the supply base. Supply-based management is not free for a company. It costs Boeing money to manage the supply chain, but we know we have to do that. So we're trying more and more to move up the value stream and get kitting, what we call the pull system, where we're doing min-max, consumption-based ordering, where we allow you access to our ERP system. We show you what our bin levels are, and then you just maintain a level between, say, 5 and 10. You go in every morning, you look at our bin levels. When it gets down to close to 5, you ship in more parts. And we're trying to get the largest percentage we can on what we call min-max, because we know in the future that's what we need to do. We need to make us lean, but also you lean, so you can really control your own destiny and ship those parts in according to our system. We'll give you access, let you see those levels. Because we sell more product overseas than we do in the United States, especially on the 787. There's only been one airline that's bought the 787 so far, and that's been Continental. All the other 787s are going all over the world. So it really is a global supply chain, a global supply base for us. We have to satisfy customers all over the world. At the air show that just happened, we sold 50 777 airplanes worth $18 billion. That's a lot of airplanes. And so that's where our business is growing. There's a projected on airplane demand in the next 20, 30 years is over $1 trillion that is out there ready to be taken from the big primes. Either Airbus is going to take it or we're going to take it on airlines. That's a lot of money. So we, Boeing, have to prepare ourselves. Okay, what are we going to do in the future? We need a supply chain that will support that kind of business. And that's you out here in the audience. You have to supply us all those components, all the testing, all the services that's coming from the supply chain. So we're concentrating heavily on how we develop our supply chain. And this is some like the demand is all over the world for what we need for our products. F-15s, F-18s, Chinooks, V-22s, C-17s are being sold all over the world. So it really is a global, but we want to make most of this here, and we're trying to. The National Labor Board is fighting us on our move to South Carolina to build 787s, but I think we're going to win that. And that's employing people in America to make an American product. And I don't think the labor should be able to tell us where to move our factories. So we'll win that battle too. Here's what happened. Our current state is that little green dot down there was assemblies. And all the rest of those were detailed parts. Well, what we're happening, we're moving up to just the opposite of that. We're moving up more assemblies and less detailed parts. More parts on contract and more long-term agreements than just purchase orders for 5 parts, 10 parts. That's not going to happen in the future. You're going to be on a long-term agreement. You're going to have a contract with Boeing or one of our integrators, and that's where your contract's going to come from, because that's the way we're moving to. We don't want to order brake shoes anymore. We want to order landing gear. We're not just ordering a part of a wing. We're ordering a fully stuffed wing. When those fuselages comes in from our suppliers, they're fully stuffed with electrical, ventilation, everything. That's why we can snap together an airplane in 3 days. So this is our move. This is our process that we're going to do. We're going to become more of an integrator. We need more assemblies. We need machine shops that also can do sheet metal. We want to give you an assembly. If that assembly has a sheet metal part, we want you to be able to have a sub-tier or strategic partnership with a sheet metal shop so you can make the machine part, the sheet metal part, and even do the testing if that's required, and then give me back a whole assembly. Because that's how we're going to go in the future. We're moving up the value stream at most every level in the company, especially in engineering. There's a lot of monolithic parts where it used to be angles and clips and all this, and stringers are now hogged out of 70/50 plate. Because it's cheaper, it's better to do it that way than to have all these transaction costs that we used to have. And here's what's going to happen in the future. You're going to have these integrated, what we call preferred suppliers that are capable of managing sub-tiers. You're going to have all these sub-tier shops over here, mom and pop shops, or shops that just want to make detailed parts, that really don't want to make assemblies. They're going to ship the parts to these integrators. These are the shops that say, look, I'll make sheet metal shop parts, I'll make machine parts, I'll make you full assemblies, Boeing. In the future, you might not be doing business with us. You're going to be doing business with one of our other sub-tiers, our suppliers. To grow into this being this integrator, you have to be open to say, look, I can make an assembly. I can do everything. But that means you have to have a sub-tier, a supply chain that you're managing. I go out a lot to my suppliers, and I go out to their suppliers and their sub-tiers and do lean events for their sub-tiers. Because I know if you do that, they're going to get their parts quicker to me because they're managing their supply chain. In the future, that's what's going to happen because we're going to have to rely upon these integrators. The facility in South Carolina was a VOT facility, and they were not making the parts. So we said, okay, we'll just buy them. And we did. And now they're part of Boeing. And now we can control our own destiny. The parts coming from Alenia are not conforming parts. We're taking the old F-22 facility up in Seattle. That's going to become a composite integration center. And we're going to start making those parts internally again. So Boeing will do what it takes to meet the demand, to meet the requirements in the future. At the same time, there's a lot of suppliers that can be part of this group. Well, you'll get purchase orders from us, 3-year contracts, 5-year contracts, and you'll be making assemblies. And then you'll have sub-tiers that are making parts for you. That's okay, because that's what it takes to make stuff in the future. It's a different model, I know, but that's where it's going. We want to move you up what we call the value stream here. We want you to get to the top where you're actually making assemblies and you're doing model-based definition and you're doing sheet metal parts, machine parts, and you're doing these assemblies and all the stuff that's required to make that. Because as you move up here, it's less transaction cost for us. We have you on contract. You're going to ship the parts in 100% on time, 100% quality. That's the model. And here's a very easy system model that as you talk about lean, all we talk about, everything that C stands for is to try to make you better, try to make you more efficient, and try to think about this meandering stream here where you have choke points, you have places where there's excess stock, you're making too many parts, you're not working lean, you're not doing one-piece flow, you're moving stuff all over the shop, you've got spaghetti charts that look like whatever, spider webs. And that's what this is all about. You need to look at what you do in a lean way, because as you do that, you're going to make a product cheaper for us, but also you're going to make the same kind of profit. And that's what I want to show you in this last screen here. This is what we call a continuous cost improvement plan. This is looking at a 5-year, 6-year plan. You sell the first part to me for $115. 6 years later, you sell that same part to me for $90. You've saved me 21%. At the same time, every year you make the same profit. Your profit margins each year actually increase as you lower the price. All that C stands for, if you want to improve your business, you come to Boeing with something like this, and you say, here's what I can do for you in the next 5 years. I'm going to lower the price. I'm going to still make profit. We know you have to make profit because we want to make profit too. You tell me you can lower the price for the next 5 years and still make your same profit and give the price lower to me. We're going to do business with you. Because that's what our customer is forcing us to do. Keep lowering the price on every airplane. Every program that we have, we're being pressured to lower the price. How do we do that? The only way we can do that, if we're 70% on the outside, that's how much stuff we buy, and that is probably $50–60 billion a year that we're spending on the outside to buy product and services from you. We have to keep lowering the price. This model here will work. It's not funny math. It actually works. Of course, now the given factor is, what about material? Material's going up every year. We have corporate leveraging contracts with every one of our suppliers. You go through AMI, you give them a forecast, and they set a yearly standard of what raw material is going to cost you. TMX on the commercial side, any of you that do commercial work, you know you have to order material through TMX. You give them a forecast, they set you a price structure that you can live with. You can actually control the price of your raw material by using our corporate leveraging contracts. So we've thought of all it takes. Now, the next point is, what's your touch labor on a part or a service? All that we've talked about says, if you improve that, you'll be able to do this. You'll be able to lower your price. You'll be able to give the product to us a lot quicker and a lot cheaper, and we'll maintain the workforce in America. Because if we can be competitive like this, we're going to beat Airbus by a long shot. Chinese are now making their own passenger jet, the 919 or whatever it's called. It's coming on. So we don't know what's going to happen to that. Now, I don't know if I want to fly in it or not. but it's going to happen. So we have to be competitive in the market. We have to be able to respond to the market requirements, and that's all as manufacturers. You have to make a profit, but as you've heard people speak, you can increase your profit margins. You can increase the price structure you give to us if you really embrace lean. I remember a story that Robert Stool told once. He went back to Cessna in Wichita, Kansas, and a certain package of parts. He says, I want to bid on this package of parts. He said, I'll take 20% off whatever the price is. And you don't need to tell me, whatever the price is you're paying for this group of parts, I'll take 20% off. He created a sale, and he took 20% off the parts. And he won the package. Now, that's tough, but that's what you have to be competitive. Like I say, that wow factor we were talking about yesterday, that's the wow factor. You come to us, we get hundreds of calls every year from hundreds of different suppliers that say, well, man, we got a 5-axis machine, we got a Mag 3 horizontal, it runs at 30,000 RPMs. Okay, but what's your price structure? What can you do for me for pricing? That's where we've evolved to, because to be competitive in this world market, we have to do stuff like this. We have to continually lower the price, at the same time, make the quality as it always has been. That's what it takes to do business with the big brand. Lockheed's going to tell you the same thing. Lockheed's probably more brutal than we are, if you've ever dealt with them. So they're being pressured by the same customers. Keep lowering that price. So anyway, that's a short little history of Boeing. And it's a great company. We make some great product, but we want to work with you. We want to add new suppliers. It's not a quick process, but at the same time, I've brought on like 3 companies this year, and it was a lot of work for me to do that, but that's all right, because I know I needed to do that to get some new blood into the system here, because sometimes when you get out of the box, you actually get better pricing structure. That's it.
If any of you have questions, we've got about 5 minutes if you would like to ask Dan a question. Dan, I know you've walked off stage, but... Okay, great. Anybody have a question of Dan?
I know this has got to be an effort for you, but you've got a lot of sub-integrators, and Boeing can't go to every potential supplier. So how are you training the sub-tier guys that are your primary supplier? Do you have a team that goes around to all of them?
Mainly, we have a group of 13 or 14 supplier program managers that basically go out and do process improvement. And at the same time, we're talking to our suppliers. And I have a little mom and pop machine shop. I said, look, if you want business from Boeing, you need to go out and get a strategic alliance with the sheet metal shop. They did that. They got a guy down the street. They actually got an alliance, a contract with each other. They won a $5 million contract the next week. And it was simple. They were a machine shop making sheet metal parts for the V-22 program. But they listened to me. They listened to what I said. Here's the way we're going. So that's what it takes. And they had, you know, some machine parts they had to make for these assemblies. But the main thing was sheet metal parts. Wasn't their core competency at all. But they went and got an alliance with someone that was their core competency. That wasn't qualified to work with Boeing. In other words, they weren't in the Boeing database. So all the inspection had to be done at the machine shop, all the outside processing, all the certs was coordinated through the supplier that's in our base. But at the same time, the sub-tier, they managed that sub-tier. We had meetings on a weekly basis. That sub-tier was part of those meetings. So that's what it's in the future. That's kind of how we're evolving to. And if you look at the other primes, they're going to tell you the same story. What's your capacity? What's your capabilities? How do you manage your supply chain? As we had to learn to manage our supply chain on the 787. We threw it over the fence. We thought it would work. It didn't. So now we're managing that. The same thing we're going to ask if you in the future manage your supply chain. Go out and get these alliances. Make sure and give us that wow factor again. That look, if we give you something like this, you're going to make the part. You're going to be on time. You're going to give me a line of balance. You're going to give me milestones. You're going to show me where these parts are. You're going to show me all the operations it takes to make this part, and you're going to give me an estimated completion date. That's what we need to know. That's where we want to mitigate our risk. If I give you this part and you tell me you can make it in 14 weeks, and my due date is 15 weeks, then show me, okay, are you going to make that due date? How are you going to make that due date? Here's the operations. Do you have the tooling? Do you have the programming? Do you have the raw material? I want to know those steps. We have another tool that we use where the suppliers go in almost on a daily basis and they give an update on where they're at. Okay, we got 3 operations left and here's my ECD. And the whole enterprise can see this information. But see, because this is what the buyer asked for. This is what the program managers of F-15, F-18, when we go to these, what we call war room meetings, when they know here's all the part shortages, here's all the assemblies, here's all the jigs that are held for what we call past assembly start dates. We go over this every day and find out where these parts are, because we have to.
Another question?
Yeah.
Okay.
We've read all about the.
Let's get a mic to you first.
Yeah.
We've read all about the NLRB trying to stop the construction over there in South Carolina, but we don't read anything about how the plant's coming. When's it going to be completed? Yeah, disregard the NLRB.
The first major building's already up. The moving assembly line is about ready to start. They've already got most of the jigs and fixtures in there, and they're going to start the moving assembly line probably within 6 months. People are being transferred. One of our SPMs just transferred to South Carolina. They're just crying for people. And the thing is, all the Boeing people say, if you go to any restaurant, any store, and you say you're from Boeing, it's like an automatic 10% discount because they love us. Because those people will work. They want jobs. You can talk about all these make-believe jobs that the government's saying they're, but these are real jobs that will last.
One more question.
Dan, you shared, one of your comments was about the 787 lessons learned.
Oh, yeah.
About suppliers. It might be valuable to hear from you about lessons learned by Boeing about suppliers, along the way. Kind of, what surprises and lessons learned were there?
The first thing we found out was the partners thought they could make all the parts that we wanted to make, and they didn't have the core competency nor the technology. We started showing up in all the machine shops in the Northwest, and we walk in the shop, and all the machines be full of 787 parts. And we go, well, who's the buyer that you're dealing with? Oh, no, this comes from JHI, MHA, KHI. We're third tier. And so we had no direct influence on these machine shops because we didn't have a contract. And so that made it difficult for us to manage. First of all, we thought the partners would tell us, hey, we've offloaded all the parts that you give us. And the thing is, it was the hard metal, the real complex machine parts that they couldn't handle. The skins, the riveting, and all that kind of stuff, no problem. It was the complex machine parts that we in America have developed this technology. We know how to do this. So it all came back here. And those parts are still now at most of our machine shops. So because of that, we had to go out and gather more capacity in hard metal machining because the interface between the composite and the major components of the wing box and all this are all hard metal because of what the composite can do. So what we learned is we still have to manage that supply base. You can't just throw it over the fence. You have to keep in touch with them. And a lot of it was communication. The culture was they didn't want to admit they couldn't do it. So instead of communicating with us, say, hey, we need help on this, they kind of hid it. And it came back here. So again, this open communication, which we've talked about in the last 2 days, is very important. Because if you communicate with me, if we're on a min-max system and you can't make that delivery by Friday or whatever it is, call me. Call the buyer. Let us know. And we can help you. We can have a workaround. So the main thing is that supply base and the customer, they've got to communicate. Because if you don't, you're going to fall to your knees.
Dan, thank you. Thank you. Let's give him a big round of applause.